lives here. He holds a bachelor's degree from the Utah State University in advertising design. He has worked in the fields of advertising design, publishing, and manufacturing. Steve is an award-winning graphic artist, a father, grateful entrepreneur, an amateur photographer, a fashion designer, sometimes writer/poet, and a one-time reality show contestant. I've got to ask you, which reality show?
It was a Martha Stewart. I went up to Boise for that.
You went
a one-time thing.
Okay, we'll get that mic set up for you there too in a minute here, a little bit closer for you. Just go ahead and pull it. Oh, I see it's hooked up on the... Yeah, well, you just give it a jerk, it'll get closer.
Can you hear me right?
Well, we will. Okay, he was a Martha Stewart contestant. All right. And he's, I guess that one-time reality show was a contestant. And he's the creator of the worst cooking video celebrity chef Tyler Florence has ever seen.
Yeah, I created my own video and put it up and basically labeled it something to the effect of what Tyler Florence wishes he was. And he immediately had to say it was the worst cooking video he ever seen, so I just latched onto that. You can't ask for anything. Yeah.
Well, Steve's other titles include Mergings. Mergings, of course. And, well, we've had some pretty interesting titles today, so I thought, well, let's make that one interesting. Mergings, a Greek fable, the Takatori story, and You Bet Your Bippy, a pirate's booty, and hindsight. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ralph Jerman.
Thanks. I'll just stay seated here if that's okay. If you want to come up, look over my shoulder, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. I've kind of got an association with this market in that I've ended my day job selling merchandise here for several years. I still do the Christmas show, and anyway, I knew of this, and when it came out this year I thought I'd do it. A couple years ago I published this book, Mergings, self-published it myself. I have a background in that kind of stuff, in that, pardon? Okay. In that I have worked for book publishers and magazines as a art director, designer, and Mergings is something that I just kind of came up with in the early 90s. I was working for Utah Business Magazine, and I was getting a lot of illustrations done and getting more comfortable with Photoshop, and so I would just start to play with Photoshop at night for 10 or 15 minutes, and basically, as we'll show, I'll go ahead and flip through these things here. There's the frontispiece. There's a merging of George Bush and chimp done after. A lot of these things are done after something comes out of the news. Here's some early work that was done, and basically I would just take a lot of existing scans in Photoshop and put them into layers. And this whole process works on the process of layers. Here are different projects I was working on, as well as some stuff that I created. Back then, even then, digitization was not everything. Everything is digitized now, and not so much then. So my definition of what is emerging, in Adobe Photoshop, I transpose two similar but disparate images to create a third image, which is full of intrigue because of the purposeful and coincidental shapes, colors, and tangencies achieved. But moreover, it creates a gestalt when the mind processes the similarities and the differences of the images and their immediate emotional reaction. So this next one, I actually was able to give this presentation at Ignite Festival, so I had these slides all done. But here's a mugshot of Mike Lookenland. He's a Salt Lake resident. He played Bobby Brady when he got arrested in southern Utah. And if you know anything about him, besides the Brady Bunch, the big influence in his life was the Grateful Dead. So here's a picture of Jerry Garcia looking really happy and so I thought I would merge those. And so as I put these two layers into Photoshop, I line things up. Generally on the faces, I just line up the eyes and the mouth, and then I put a layer style on it. I'll flip to these layer styles. Each of these layer styles creates different looks with the existing, the exact same scans. And it's fairly rare. I had, the only people I can point to, or the person I can point to in history, is Man Ray. Did some of this stuff photographically. And most of you know about double exposed film, if you're old enough. But this is a process where we're purposely trying to put the things together. So here is one I have of Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump. They were fighting each other. So again, I find a couple of images that look like they'll work, that represent them, and I put them on top of each other. And then in this case, I've shown you several different layer styles, because each layer is essentially a photographic mathematical equation on what to do with the existing tone, the existing pixels there. And they just create funny stuff. But again, what's really funny is the fact that this is Donald Trump and Rosie O'Donnell. Here's one that I did of Mel Gibson after he was arrested, and you can find these images on Steve Jerman Ignite Salt Lake City. There's a video essentially showing you the same
And
thing.
you have cards and stuff with you.
Yeah, I do have cards at my table.
Okay.
You can send me an email for sure if you're interested.
All right.
So I just, well, it was when he went on his anti-Semitic rage, and I thought, well, who better to merge him with than Hitler? And again, it just comes in the right photo, and he's wearing a certain shirt and it just creates really fascinating images. Here's one of Trey from Fish and a big guinea pig. And when I started this, I would sometimes just it was almost an exercise. I'd find a photo and then see what it reminded me of. Now I genuinely have an idea before I come to the table with it. Here's one of Kid Rock and a waffle, because Kid Rock was in a fight at the Waffle House, and both of these images are public domain. In other words, anybody could do these. They are on the internet for the use. One was from Wikipedia and the other's a mugshot. Anybody can use a mugshot. So I put them together, and you kind of got his like kind of stringy hair dipping into the buttery syrup. It's perfect. Here's one that has got a lot of response last time. Aerial views, both, of course. And they are Burning Man and the Pentagon on top of each other. And it just creates abstract shapes. And I've done things more with line art, just kind of little playful illustrations. I was doing stuff with just scraps, I called this, and things, receipts, etc. Here's one that I did that's kind of typical of the way I work now with them, is something will happen and I'll get an idea. And this one was at Burning Man again. A guy went and lit the man before he was supposed to be lit. So that was, you know, vandalism, arson. And so he did it to make himself somewhat famous. Though I can't remember his name right now, though it could probably come to me. Anyway, so I thought, well, what is that like? Burning the man before it's supposed to be burned. And I thought of the famous shot of Jack Ruby shooting Oswald after he'd allegedly shot Kennedy. And it's just an idea and pictures that come together and they create shapes. So there's what the book looks like. So what I was going to do, I was just going to do one for you here. And I'm going to grab these. Let me grab these for you. These are vegetables I went out and I shot these yesterday. So the program I do this in is Adobe Photoshop. Okay, I'll just kind of do this to do a basic idea for you here. I don't want to take up too much time, but so anything that's digitized can be used in this process. You don't have to take pictures. Anything you can download from the web, scans. I brought all kinds of different diverse elements into it. And if you're looking at the idea of just creating something interesting to look at, so a picture starts on its own layer. You can create your own layer above it or paste it in. And basically you have two pictures on top of each other. Really simple. Then in the layers there's something called styles, and each one affects it differently. I go to exclusion, and it's a little too dark to see what's happening here. Excuse me, too light. But each one will create a different look. Now, generally this one hard mix doesn't look very good, but I really like what it's doing here. Vivid light. Also, all of these layer styles in Photoshop can be adjusted in opacity from 0 to 100, so you basically have 100 degrees of these things. What you can do is just pretty phenomenal. That looks good. All right, well, thank you very much. The book's called Mergings. I'll be over there for a while. You can also Google Steve Jerman. You'll find it on stevejerman.com. Thanks. It is.